Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 555 of the Fraternity Foodie podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our sixth book just came out. It's called I'm So Beautiful, It's Ridiculous, Unleashing and Promoting Strength, Self-Worth, and Real Sisterhood. So go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, I love demystifying networking for college students and getting them started on networking activities right away. The worst time to start networking is when you actually need a job, which is at graduation. I want you to start networking as a freshman, as a sophomore, as a junior, so that way your dream job is waiting for you as you graduate and you walk across that stage. You're going immediately into your dream job. That is the goal, and I think that our next guest can help to get you there. Michael A. Forman has a track record of transforming business networking through strategic engagement and critical thinking. With a razor-sharp focus on customer service, he enables professionals to forge powerful connections and unlock new opportunities. Michael has crafted workshops that cultivate personal power and executive presence, empowering professionals to leverage their stories for business success. He's elevated networking from a mere transaction to an art form. The essence of our expertise lies in inspiring trust and fostering relationships that transcend business as usual, driving profitability through genuine connections. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc. I have to tell you, I love that intro. It's the best.
It is the best, probably because you wrote it, right?
Probably, but it is so true in today's day and age.
Yeah.
It really is. But thank you very much for that intro.
You're very welcome. It is my pleasure. I'm passionate about the same thing you are, which is networking. But before we even get to that, I think you've gone through some pretty formative experiences early on in your life. You actually spent 9 years working for the U.S. Air Force in law enforcement. Talk to our audience. What was that experience like for you?
Well, I went in kind of late. I went in when I was 21 years old. Usually you go at 18, 19, and I did not know where I was going or what I was about, or I was very mixed up. I just like went through life, just going through life. I went into the Air Force and they taught me leadership. At 21 years old, I was taught it was the best experience of my life. And I put everything I had into it. I had what's called a step promotion and everything else. But I came out as a master sergeant in 9 years. And so that was really, it set me on my leadership path, but it taught me how to network because that was, I had to tell people what to do and how to do it that were older than I was.
Mhm.
So that always puts you in a very strategic position. But I did it and I enjoyed it. And I wound up going to Desert Storm. And after Desert Storm, I came home.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for your service to this country. I think that's incredibly important to say and remind ourselves. Now, you also decided on DeVry University for your undergraduate college experience. Why did you decide to go to school at DeVry?
Well, at the time, digital electronics was the way to go. And I looked at a lot of different schools, and for the money and the time and everything else, I was working full time when I went. So I had to do 3 trimesters a year until I graduated. But again, it was a very good thing and it shaped my future.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's good to see that everything worked out. I know how challenging that can be to go to school while you're working full time. So luckily, I think that's gotten easier as adults want to go back and get various degrees, et cetera. So I think we're doing a better job, I think, of making sure that people get the education that they need in this country. And so that's worked out well for you, clearly, because today, now you're a public speaker. You have a presentation that's called Future Ready Students Preparing for Jobs, Success, and Life After Graduation. This is obviously perfect for our listeners who are all college students, and it equips students with essential skills. So things like networking, communication, career readiness to help them to thrive in today's very competitive job market. So, explain to our audience, why do you think networking is so important for college students?
Well, my job is to make you a better person, make you understand what to do, but I'm here to help you make do it better. And it all starts from confidence. So if you're a confident type person, not arrogant, but confident, okay, there's a big difference, but it goes a long way. It goes looking square in the eye, giving them a firm handshake. And I don't mean shake their hand like a dead fish. I mean shake their hand, okay? So you need to have that conversation with them, but you need to respond to them correctly. Now, when kids today, kids, I'm using that term in quotes, but they're thinking of texting or Zoom calls or something else like that, and it's broken English or just something else like that. But the whole idea is to use complete sentences. You have to speak articulately, so you need to speak with them correctly, and most importantly, they have to learn how to listen because that's a lost art also. So when somebody's talking to you, you have to listen. Forget about your cell phone, forget about any distraction, right? So you're listening, and then here's the important part. You pause. You pause because you're telling the other person that you've listened to them. And you're going to respond not with the next thing that you have to say, but to what they were talking about.
Yeah, that is a lost art. You're absolutely right. And, it's something that we all have to develop and work on. And if you're leading a team, you have to be able to listen to what they're trying to say. If it's only about your agenda, you're going to end up losing all of those people. So instead of focusing on the next thing that you're about to say, just truly be present and listen to what they have to say. And you can even kind of recapsulate what they said and just kind of explain or summarize what they said by saying something like, "So, Michael, what I heard you say was," and explain it. And then that way they absolutely know that you 100% understand where they're coming from. And by doing that, that shows that you're being an active listener.
Yeah, you know what? You're describing really the difference between a leader and a boss.
Mhm.
You can go through school and you can learn how to be a boss. Anybody can be a boss. Spout, what you have to do and just expect them to do it. A leader teaches leaders. So if you're a mentor or if you're in a leadership position, you're teaching the other people that you have around you to be future leaders. And that's a very big difference.
Oh yeah, very, very big difference indeed. So, all right, so we started introducing this idea of networking and potentially meeting other employers, could be customers for your new business, etc. So, where should college students be going in order to network, and what in the world should they say when they meet a potential employer?
Well, that's a very broad statement, okay? Because when you're going through college, what really do you have that you can network with? Well, you can because you buy clothing, you go to a grocery store, you're looking at your little brother, little sister, or somebody else's on a little league team. You can network anyway, and the whole idea is to practice. Okay, so if you're in all of these situations, I was on a line in a grocery store, and I was in mortgages at the time. So I'm listening to their conversation and I'm just letting them talk. And right information, wrong information, whatever it is, I turned around, I give them my advice. And at first they were like, "Who are you?" But I turned around and said, "Look, I've been in the mortgage industry for 12 years. I understand this is what you should really be doing." And I turned back around. I wasn't trying to sell anything. You should always go into a situation looking to give, not receive. Okay, so that's what your main thought should be, and where to look. Listen, if you're serious about networking, there's online, there's something called meetup.com. You put in your zip code and everything, and you can find networking groups that are smaller, but you can practice. And I keep saying practice, practice, practice because networking and communication is an art and a talent. Okay, but it's an art and a talent that you can practice. And really, the more you practice, the better you become. So once you're confident in yourself, you're saying hello to that person, you're doing everything as well, you're practicing what you're going to say. Now, in the networking world, we say, what's your 30-second elevator speech or pitch? Okay, so that you're not up to that yet. Okay. You're just going and practicing. I have a formal 30-second elevator pitch, and it's I help professionals network and communicate more effectively and efficiently, thus creating more profits. And you're like, what? I only say the first half of that because my whole idea is to get you to converse with me. And that's what they should be doing. Whenever they're going out anywhere, they should be looking to converse, but having the networking in their heads so that they're practicing how they look at them, how they approach it, and of course, how you dress. It's all very, very important. But
Yeah.
that's hopefully that answered your question.
That does answer the question very well. And notice if you listen back to Michael and his elevator pitch, sometimes we call it a USP, a unique selling proposition. And what he's talking about is that he identified a target market and a particular problem that he solved. That's the equation. And so for everybody listening, I want you to start thinking. You don't have to get, as detailed yet. We're not there yet. I agree with Michael. It's very early in the infancy stage of networking. But all of that being said, start thinking about what target market you want to serve as a college student and what problem you want to solve. That will help you to get to the point where Michael is at, where he can instantly, I can wake him up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He can do that elevator pitch at 3 o'clock in the morning if I wake him up from a dead sleep. That's how well prepared he is for that networking meeting. Am I right?
You are so right. I think even if I'm sleeping, I still can say my 30-second elevator pitch.
I agree with you. I think you can. There's no question in my mind. So we want to get to that point, right? We're not there
Right.
yet, but you can start formulating ideas on what that's going to look like for you. So all of this has been very helpful. I'm wondering, what is a good way for students to ensure that they're actually career ready when, let's be honest, I mean, they don't really have a lot of experience in the job world yet.
Okay, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Practice, practice, practice. Because every time you go to a store, every time you go anywhere, you have to be the bigger person in the room. Okay, you have to again look to give, not receive.
Mhm.
When I go to a networking event, I'm looking to see how my when I sit down with somebody, I'm saying, how can I make you more successful? How can I be a good referral source for you? And the people in my town know me because I always put two people together. Oh, you need a plumber? You're a plumber? I'll put you together. Things like that. So if you're the bigger person in the room, it always works out. Let the other person speak because you know what? You know it as well as I do. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. So let them talk. And I have a system, of course, being in networking and for so long, I have something called FORM, FORM, family, occupation, recreation, and a message. And if you think of that as you're speaking with them, you don't talk business. Of course, the people in college aren't going to talk business right away, but they'll have it in the back of their mind. So have form in their mind, and you can come up with anything to talk about. If they're working, you can talk about their work, talk about their family, their sister, brother, mother, father, whatever. Okay, recreation, you have to find some sort of similarity. So there's a lot to talk about. But my main concern, my main focus, I should say, is be the bigger person in the room or of the conversation.
Yeah, Michael is talking about putting the focus on the other person that you are meeting instead of yourself. I understand as a college student, immediately you want to say, well, I'm the best accountant you've ever seen. I know debits and credits, and I can fix any accounting department in the world. Hire me. Like, I understand why you feel that way and you want to project that and you want to let them know what you do really well. And that's great. but you have to figure out what is the other person all about and what are their pain points. So if Michael is a business owner and I meet him in a networking situation, a great thing would be for us to talk about his occupation. Okay. So what do you do for a living? Michael tells me that he's a public speaker. I'm saying, wow, great. I'm a public speaker too. And then I'm going to try to find out what are his pain points. So what are some of the issues that you're finding around being a public speaker today? And then Michael can tell me what's going on with his business and what his pain points are. And then I can say, hey, do you know that I actually coach other speakers in terms of getting onto more stages? So I can help you with that problem that you're experiencing. So it's really all about Michael and what his issues are and how I can help him resolve whatever issues are. But it really does start with that form that Michael was talking about earlier to really find what are those commonalities, what does he do as an occupation, and what are some of those pain points that I, as a college student, can potentially help him with. So hopefully all of that is really helpful. Now, Michael, you're also an expert communicator. How can today's college students build their communication skills?
It's really simple. First of all, they have to enunciate because you're not going to get anywhere if the other person can't understand you. So I'm talking about years ago, there was something called Ebonics, and they tried to pass it along as language, and it just wasn't resonating with people because people couldn't understand them. So if you enunciate, then that is the beginning of everything else. So that's the beginning of your communication skills. And of course, it comes down to how you approach the person, your body language. Your body language speaks volumes, and if you have that fake smile on your face, you lost them. Okay. The whole enunciate and be yourself, be present. Because if you are not yourself, 2 or 3 events down the line, you're going to meet the same person and you're going to be a different person because you never can remember that falsehood. So enunciate, be yourself, and be confident.
I like that really good. The master enunciator, of course, is James Bond in my mind. 007, right? He says Bond, James Bond. He is enunciating and he is teaching you what his name is. I mean, that's really,
Yes,
really important, you know? So he's kind of the master at it. Watch a James Bond flick and watch how he introduces himself. That's where you're going to see some clear enunciation, right, Michael?
that's correct. That's 100% correct. That's 100% correct.
Yeah, he's teaching you what his name is. It's brilliant what he's doing, and he's repeating it, right? Bond,
He's
James
repeating
Bond.
it.
He's repeating it and enunciating so clearly that it's beautiful to see, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's teaching you his name. And also in terms of body language, Michael is absolutely right. If you're at a networking meeting, you're at, some chamber of commerce in your local town, and they're having a meeting, and you see 3 people standing in a circle having a conversation, but they're in a circle formation. What is that telling you? That's telling you that it's basically a closed conversation. I, as an outsider, I can't get in there because it's the 3 of you standing in a circle and talking to each other in a closed circle, right? But if those same 3 people, they stood in a line and they were just having a conversation and they were just lined up, the 3 of them, and it was open, the circle, that's an invitation. That's using their body language to say that they're open to new people joining this conversation. So the body language and the posturing, all of this says all kinds of words and messages without speaking a single word, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He hit the nail right on the head.
Mhm. All right.
Perfect.
Well, it's good. So that's some good tips, I think, when we're in those networking situations. So next, how should you talked a little bit earlier about confidence and arrogance, right? And there's that delicate balance, I think, between the two. How do you find that balance between the two? Because we're all confident in our skills, but we don't want it to come across as a way that it's arrogant and people are just like, this guy is just full of himself. How do we strike that good balance?
Well, I kind of said it before by letting the other person speak. Okay, you're letting that person speak. And there's a thing again in networking called know you, like you, trust you. If they know you, if they like you, and they trust you, they'll do business with you. So, with that in mind, you're letting the other person speak, you listen, you're pausing, you respond. So, all of that is in with your confidence. So confidence, that's one side. Arrogance is none of the above. Okay. It's always trying to break into conversation, always trying to say me, and saying, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. When whenever you go to any networking affair, you're thinking you are the expert in your field. Okay. So when you break into a conversation, you wait for that time to break in, you say your piece and you stop talking. Okay. So that's the number one thing. But and arrogance is the exact opposite. It's let me just say, oh, okay. I was at a networking event. Oh my God, let me just a guy walked up. There's about five people at a table, and he handed out business cards. Here. Okay, listen, I can't talk to everybody, but I'll get back in touch with everybody. Can I have your business cards because I want to contact every one of you? And he was gone in a flash. And I was like, what was that?
Sounds like a
you know,
hurricane.
and so all of us just threw his card away.
Yeah.
But when you're speaking with confidence, let's say there are five people at the table, maybe two of them would be interested in what you had to offer. So you're looking to build a relationship with those people. The days of building your client, not your client, your customer base is really, as of the pandemic, it's really gone. Okay. Now we're in a day of building relationships. And if you build those relationships correctly, you'll have business for life.
Yeah, Michael is absolutely accurate there. Handing out business cards, just like Michael suggested, you know where most business cards end up? In the trash. That's where most of them end up. And so the reality is that networking is not handing out business cards. Networking is building relationships, like Michael is talking about. So that way, if there is a public speaking opportunity on a particular campus about networking, Michael's job is to implant his name, Michael Forman, into my brain. So that way, when that opportunity opens up, I instantly think Michael Forman. He is the guy to call when you want a speaker in terms of networking. So that is your job for whatever it is that you do. You want to build that top of the mind awareness of what it is that you do in the minds of the people that you're meeting in a networking meeting. Am I right?
Absolutely. And I want to say, when I worked in the mortgage business,
Yeah.
I went to networking events hand over foot, and I came home with a shoebox filled with business cards. I said, look how great I did. Not really, because I couldn't think of one conversation I had with any one of those people. So with a 3 or 4 hour event, I figure about 15 to 20 business cards. And because that means that you've built a relationship, you've built that trust value. And the follow up I feel is more important than actually meeting the people. And I have a secret sauce for follow up, but that's for another day, another conversation. But it's more of building the relationship. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, you know what I use the business cards for? I usually take notes on there. And so when I build that relationship and I actually have, something that we've shared, something really important that I can follow up on that's actionable, I will write that on the back of their card. So that way when I get back home, I remember what we talked about. That's a pretty good tip too.
Absolutely. Well, that's when I go on tour, when I speak on stages, I see that on the back of the business card, you write down the date, the name of the function, and something you spoke about,
Yeah.
so that you are able to, uh, at a moment's notice, pick that card up and say, "Oh, I know it. That was Michael. I remember him," and wrote it down. But that was very, very good, and not a concept that many people do.
Oh yeah, that's the
So it's
that's
very
the
good.
great if you want to be a master networker, that's exactly what you need to do is remember when you spoke to them, where you met them, and what you spoke about. If you can recall those three things, then in any conversation, you are good to go. I mean, you are ready to rock and roll and hit the ground running as opposed to, oh, what was that guy's name? Or where did I meet him? What did we discuss? It's all written down. And so it's really easy for you to pull that out and then recall exactly where you left off.
And it's all part of the follow up,
Yeah.
because during your follow up, during your emails and something else that I do, you write down the date, the name of the function, what you spoke about every time,
Yep.
because that puts it in the person's brain.
Yeah. 100% really good. And of course, now they have CRM packages, et cetera.
Yep.
So you can actually take that business card and put it into an electronic format in a database. And then you can actually start recording all of that stuff, right? So that's
Yep.
the other thing that they never taught me in college. I learned this in my first job. They showed me the CRM package, and I'm like, nobody ever talked to us about a CRM package in college, but it's literally like the backbone of business, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Unbelievable. But anyway, but I digress. So hopefully that's helpful to all of our listeners. The one other thing I wanted to ask you about, what advice do you have for college students in terms of what they're posting on social media?
Okay, this is a very important subject because once you post something, it's up there for life. So I my advice is not to post anything that you couldn't show your grandmother, right? So if you can show your grandmother, it's good to post. So if you post something, now I go across all social, not all, but most, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel. So I post on everything twice per day, per work week, right? So I'm involved a lot. But I make sure that nothing I post, I couldn't just turn around, show to my grandmother and say, is that nice? Is that good? Yes. Right? Professionally dressed. Listen, you can go with social media back and forth with your friends and things like that, maybe about parties. I'm not quite sure, but you have to see where that line is because every employer looks at your social media. So if you go for a job and okay, and they may ask you what your social media handles are. They're going to take it and they're actually going to probably hand it off to somebody, but they're going to look at it and watch it. Now, what is that going to say about you? Your LinkedIn, well, that's business. So that's okay. But Instagram, those reels, you know, are you chugging something or are you just talking about selling cosmetics, So it's a big difference. So that's my advice. Don't put anything on social media that you can't show your grandma.
Excellent advice. That's take that to the bank. That is a very, very good tip that people want to keep in mind, especially as they are college students. Be very mindful about what you're posting on social media. That can all go across the internet in about 5 seconds and get you exposure. Could be good or it could be really bad too, depending on what you're doing in that social media post. And he's absolutely right. Employers will look at your social media handles and then determine, are you really a good fit for them culturally? So be careful about what you post. 100%. All right. Well, Michael, this has been very helpful. I do love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie podcast. That is my weakness. And I do get to Atlanta very often because I'm in Nashville. It's only a 4 hour drive for me. I'd be there in no time. I can meet you there for dinner today. So, where should I go for a great meal the next time I'm in Atlanta?
I like Nashville myself. So now listen, I'm from New York.
Yeah.
So I'm used to having food at on every corner and everything was super delicious.
Yeah.
Okay. Georgia is not as good as New York. Okay. I'm trying to say that as nice as I
As
could.
nicely as
Um,
possible.
but but if I wanted pizza, I go back to New York. All right, because pizza, they still haven't figured out what makes a good pizza. Bagels, I go back to New York. They haven't figured it out yet. A couple places, but down here it's Mexican, um, Chinese, maybe some Chinese, but I go back up to New York for that. There's 1,000 different places, all about above average and below excellent. But there really isn't any place that I would recommend saying, "Oh, you have to go." I do have a steak place,
Okay.
so yeah, it's called Cherry Street Brewery.
Nice.
It's down here, and it's a half brewery and half steak place, and that place is fabulous
There you go. Cherry Street Brewery. That is the place to go. And listen,
in the bakery.
Yeah, as somebody who was born in Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan, I understand what you're talking about. Okay. Nobody does bagels and pizza like New York City. I'm sorry. It's just forget it. Like, whatever you have locally, if it's not in New York slash New Jersey, I'm just telling you it's an imposter. Okay. I don't know how else to tell you that in a nice way. It's not the real deal. Okay. Michael and I know what good Italian food is and what good bagels are. We understand these things. And if we're going for Chinese food, we're probably going, to Chinatown, right? Like that's where we're going in New York City. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. So, our apologies,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. Okay. I'm not denying anything you're saying.
because it's true, and I know
I
it's true
do.
too. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. If our college student listeners want to bring you in to speak on their college campus about networking, where should they go to connect with you?
Well, it's very simple. Go to my website, michaelaforman.com. On there, you have the plethora of uh, podcasts that I've been on. I've been on, I think, over 60 podcasts. I wrote a digital I wrote a digital course. I wrote a book. You can get all of that from the website. And on the very bottom, there's a contact form. And if you want, put your information in, and I'll get back in touch with you in 24 hours. And hopefully, I can come speak at all the sororities and
Fantastic.
fraternities.
Absolutely. So there you go. Go and get the digital course, go and get the book, and then you can connect with Michael. The website is michaelaforman.com. Go and check that out and then book him to come and speak on your college campus. So, Michael, listen, I appreciate the time that you spent here. I hope that you put this interview on your website because it's the best podcast interview you've had in 60 episodes so far. And we appreciate you sharing this information with our college students.
Not a problem at all. Just send me a link and I'll put it up.
All right, that's a deal. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Michael A. Forman, I want you to like this and I want you to share it on social media, share it with other college students that are looking for their dream job, that they're in college. I know you know a lot of students that are looking for their dream job. Michael's the one that's going to help you get there. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.